All right, happy Saturday. It is Saturday drop day here at the Balance. We're at a very special place. My happy place, anyway. We're here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway inside the Media Center down here at 16th and Georgetown in Indianapolis, looking out into the horizon there, seeing the skyline of Indianapolis. It's always a great time to be here. And we're here to help out Speedway Digest as we do every year. I'm very excited to be a part of their team here this weekend. And speaking of Speedway Digest, the one, the only Steve Wilson, editor in chief of SpeedwayDigest.com. How are you, sir? Happy Saturday.
Well, I hope the rain holds out for you guys up
I
that
do too.
direction.
We were just talking about that. There's a small chance, a small window, but it'll be right during qualifying. So we don't know, but obviously we can talk about that, how that will pan out. It'll be based on points. Let's talk a little bit about the Dash for Cash. I mean, we had that, and I'm so sorry. I had my notes right here. I'm kind of flustered, Steve. But the Dash for Cash drivers were here yesterday. I had an opportunity to listen to them. Um, can you refresh my memory on who those two drivers are, Steve? I'm so sorry.
Todd Gilliland and Ryan Blaney going for the
That's
million
it.
dollar end season after a Cinderella run for Todd Gilliland last weekend at Northwest Speedway, finishing in the top five, allows him to battle with Ryan Blaney this weekend to that $1 million that somebody's going to pick up. And if you go back like last year, I mean, we had some we had Ty Gibbs and
Yes. Mhm.
Ty Dillon, as kind of the two Cinderella runs last year. So it doesn't seem like, this year we got Brian Blaine, but we still got an underdog for the most part that still has the opportunity to win $1 million.
Well, this is also a very special kind of historic moment, if you will. A lot of people think, well, people have been kissing the bricks for decades and decades and decades here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but the teams for NASCAR hasn't been doing it since 19 has only been doing it since 1996, and that was a tradition that was started by Dale Jarrett. And has continued to this day. And one of the themes of the track is kissing the brick since 96. And we got a pin here that they gave us in the media center that says kissing the brick since 96. So it's really cool to see all the fans as they come down and the brick road there, and then there's the grid walk where the brick is, which is what the track was originally made out of, was brick, is to lean down and to kiss the bricks. It's a little bit dirty, but would you kiss the bricks if you were here, Steve? Would you do it?
Look, I guess if I won the Indianapolis 500 or Brickyard 400, I would probably partake in that too, because why not?
What a great tradition it is. And it was fun to listen to Chase Briscoe yesterday, and they said, if you are you going to, how are you going to celebrate if you win the Brickyard 400? He said, I'm going to do it all. I'm going to look for that opening in the fence. I'm going to climb the fence, how Tony Stewart used to do stuff. I'm going to kiss the bricks. It's going to take them an hour and a half to catch up to me to do the post race interview. So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, rich history, and it's a crown jewel of the NASCAR series. Tell us a little bit about how the teams prepare for, obviously, a 2.5 mile oval, the largest in one of the largest tracks in the world, and certainly one of the largest tracks they will ever race in. How does the team prepare for Indianapolis here?
Yeah, it's just a difference between the differential banking between the turns out there and just how the design of the track is. We typically get these either long green runs, or in the past we've had problems with tires and tire wear pretty quickly in this race, especially you add in the heat during the summertime. It just throws kind of a wrinkle into all of this, where the handling of these cars can get sideways pretty quickly. You get some tire roll, that the tires will start coming and falling off pretty quickly in this race. So it becomes a tire management race to some degree. And then, it's just having to try and work the different ends of the track and different banking that is there, that just makes it so different for stock cars, that Yeah, this truck was never really intended or built for stock cars in general, and it's just something different. And I think with you look at Pocono and the way that that is designed to some degree, and the cars are able to adapt and take some of those notes from Pocono, because one of the turns there is designed after Indy, so they have at
Hmm.
least some comparison in which they're able to use within the season and be able to try and work and prepare for this race so in the summertime. But it's a combination of a lot of things that we get into at this part of the season, and a lot of it is the drivers are going to be battling heat. That is one thing that we saw last weekend in North Wilkesboro. Heat was a factor, even though that this race was running at 7 o'clock at night. This thing will be run during the day, and it's just going to be a heat factor. And that's mentally draining and straining to not only the driver but the vehicle as a whole.
Well, I tell you what, let's move over to the truck race. What a great race it was last night out in Brownsburg, which is just a little hop, skip, and jump from here at the over. I still call it the Lucas Oil Raceway, but I think it's now called O'Reilly Racetrack or something. But it's also where the NHRA is held. But they had the truck race. There's a long history with the trucks being here on the west side of Indianapolis. But what a great race it was. Total domination from Lane Riggs last night here in Indianapolis. Lane Riggs, I mean, really, I don't know if there's anybody that can stop him as far as winning the championship this year.
Yeah, 198 of the 200 laps was just totally dominated by Lane Riggs. He backed up his win from 2025. Chandler Smith was the only other one that led two of the 198 that Riggs did not. Chandler won last week in North Wilkesboro. The Chandler locked himself in the first stage. He needed 4 points in order to lock himself in. He did that very early on by finishing the first stage in the top 10. It was just a dominating performance, and we saw that with about 4 seconds ahead of the field by the time that the flag dropped on Lane Riggs winning that race last night, his fifth of the season. Chandler Smith winning two others for Front Row Motorsports. Caden Honeycutt had won the ARCA race, so there was a lot of prospect of him coming into that race later on last night, and would be somebody that would be a factor, and he just really was just a non-factor in all of this. But nonetheless, he's already locked himself into the chase. So is Gio Ruggiero and Christian Eckes. There are five of the spots already taken up before the 3 week break before we head to Richmond to continue this regular season championship type deal that we've got going on, which I'm at this point, Lane Riggs is 100 points ahead of Caden Honeycutt. So I don't think anybody's going to catch
Yeah.
him in the next, Richmond and New Hampshire before they start their chase deal. So it looks like Lane Riggs is pretty much on his way to winning the regular season at this point.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Let's talk a little bit about the O'Reilly Parts Race Series. That's happening today here in Indianapolis at 4 o'clock. They're going to begin qualifying here in just a little bit around noon. I am losing my voice, brother. Around noon for the Pennzoil 250, the O'Reilly Parts Series. You got to look at Allgaier, or you got to look at um, see, I don't like having my other monitors. I'm just going to fall on the sword, Steve. I'm used to having more than one monitor. It's very primitive. Justin Allgeiger, Jesse Love, Sheldon Krieg, and Corey Day round up in the top in Carson Capleville, round up in the top five as far as the standings go for the O'Reilly Parts Series. What we're looking at today for the O'Reilly Parts Auto Race here in the Pennzoil 250. Sorry, Pennzoil 250 here in Indianapolis.
Well, you can't forget yesterday in practice that you've got two cup invaders in the top five. Ross Chastain leading that deal with Junior Motorsports. In fact, 4 out of the top five are junior motorsports cars with Chase Elliott running out at the tail end of that, and Justin Allgaier second, Carson Kvapil, and Sam Mayer. So you've got a couple of Cup drivers that are seeking to win in the O'Reilly Series race later on today, and there's a lot of betting money that you can put on like a Chase Elliott or Ross Chastain, especially when they get in those junior motorsports cars. And they seem to even be able to outperform Justin Allgaier, although I'm sure that Justin would like to win in his home state at his home track and be able to, go
Mhm.
out there. But I think he's going to have to get around the likes of Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain.
Well, it's going to be a good race and a very a fun race to watch. It's actually a pretty quick race here in Indianapolis, so we'll see how that plans out. Bubba Wallace is getting ready to take the media stand here. And of course, he was last year's winner. Don't look for him to be a repeat this year, but he'll be taking the presser here in just a minute. We'll get that sound bites and stuff for that for you guys as well. Let's move on over though to the Brickyard tomorrow. One of the big stories that was talked about yesterday, and that was with Bowman stepping down after the end of this year due to health reasons. And he's like, hey, now's the time for us to go in a different direction, if you will. And I think that Hendrick Motorsports is very, very supportive of him and his decision to step away. Now the question is, of course, he'll be racing tomorrow, but now the question is who will be in that car. And I think there's been a lot of names drop and come around. We've talked about a few of them ourselves. I think we talked about Corey Day, Justin Love, some other ones that will step into the Bowman car there with Hendrick Motorsports. What are your thoughts with that big story?
Yeah, I think this was really just a long time coming. There's been rumors year after year that Bowman's job was kind of on the line and he would be able to pick up some wins throughout the year, and then that kind of talk would go away for a while. But you go back to his early career, I think he said he was 15 or 16 years old. He was involved in a very serious accident in a sprint car that really messed him up. Then you go back even to some of the wrecks that happened over the last couple of seasons with him. He's been in physical therapy. He says that he's in pain pretty much every day, and that he's trying to get through that in order to finish out this last year. He's also got some issues going on that similarly put Dale Jr. out of a car with these concussions, and we saw him out of the car for a couple of weeks earlier this year. So, I think all these are being put together in the light of here's a 33-year-old race car driver that is getting out of a race car just because of some very serious accidents and things that have going on health wise with him, that it's probably time to step away. And if you look back, I look back at some of these drivers that they don't necessarily know when to get out of the car. And we've
Mhm.
seen the likes of Bobby Isaac years ago when he heard voices at Talladega telling him to get out of a car, and he parked the car and got out the car, and then later down the line, he got back in the car at Hickory Motor Speedway and wrecked the car and died. So,
Mhm.
it's just, there's these strange things that happen to drivers, and sometimes they just don't know when to get out of the car and when
Right.
to end it. Sometimes their car owner does justice for them by firing them and putting them out of the car, because really I think sometimes these drivers just don't know when to quit, and Bowman seems to have come to peace with the fact that he has known over the last couple of seasons that as his body continues to deteriorate, as he continues to have these issues with concussions and the physical therapies and the things that he's going through, that he's come to peace with the fact that he knows that his career is coming to an end. And it's kind of sad that we have a
Mhm.
33-year-old race car driver that's getting out of the car, and then here's Denny Hamlin on the opposite side of this in his
Mhm.
mid 40s, who's
Mhm.
winning races and leading the point series right now. Now, I know that, those are kind of apples and oranges, and we know that Denny Hamlin's days are coming to an end too. But, I just, I, I, I look back and you look at Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch was in a really bad accident in this next generation car that
Mhm.
ended up ending his career. And just Alex Bowman has also been in some serious incidents in this next gen car. Look, I don't know whether it's the car or not, but I know that there's a pattern of effects that hopefully NASCAR is taking a look into and saying, okay, why are these drivers getting in these accidents and causing these concussions and things like that? And they make the needed changes because we went through this a long time in the NFL where we just kind of threw a blind eye at what was going on and said, oh, whatever, we'll wash them up and throw them down the line and we'll just get somebody else. And we don't really want to do that in motorsports. We've tried to
Mhm.
make it as safe as possible. And I think that hopefully NASCAR takes a look into these instances and, kind of looks and sees why these is occurring and make the needed changes because we don't want to put our drivers out of their career sometime at the top of their career. And especially at 33 years old, that's really early for a driver to even retire in the first place. And yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's not abnormal, but I mean, in this day and age, we typically have drivers that are going into their early 40s before they leave full time competition. So I think he had at least a few other years in him had it not been for the totality of starting with that incident when he was 15 or 16 years old. And then, I kind of continued on throughout his racing career as he's been in the other racing series and he's been in the Cup Series over the last 10 years with Hendrick Motorsports. So I wish him well. He's got about 1.5 seasons left, and
Mhm.
and hopefully, he can finish his career out and walk away feeling good about himself. And it seems like he's already at peace at that.
And that's good. And that's a good place to be. And Denny Hamlin was here yesterday, talking to the media. And last year, this time last year, he said this is probably going to be the last. Oh, I won't be doing a contract extension with Joe Gibbs Racing. They've already got the things in place for that. But now you see Denny Hamlin having the best of his career, one might argue. And I know the question was asked to him: Is that still where you stand at? And he's like, he's focused on the now, right now. But you're right about Denny Hamlin. He may be one of those drivers that say, "Okay, I'm doing so well. Maybe I can win a championship. I've never won at the Brickyard. I don't believe he has, and maybe there's some other opportunities. So we'll see if that actually happens. But the driver who could very well replace Bowman is Connor Zillage. He's that 20-year-old young and an up and coming rock star over there at Trackhouse, and this will give him another season or so to develop it to jump into that number 42 team. Another name that was tossed around was Corey Day, but another name that people were talking about here this morning is Josh Berry. Josh Berry could very well be a person that's looked at to step in the 48 car. I like Connor Zillage over all of those, but yeah, they were talking about that here in the media center today about Josh Berry being that additional name there. What are your thoughts about who replaces Alex Bowman in Hendricks Motorsports after 2027?
I think Zillage is sort of the leading candidate at this moment, and yes, Corey Day is the protege of Jeff Gordon and Rick Hendrick to try and bring him up and be in the Cup Series at some point, and they've got 4 cars over there, so I think they have an opportunity to move Corey Day up once he develops to a point where he's ready to be in these cars. He's won already a couple times this season as a whole, but I know Connor Zillage. You look back and you see the compare and contrast of the year before where he won 12 races and then came up short in the championship. But this year has just been a total disaster for him. There's just no other way to really describe it. I mean, he went weeks on end where he was the last car, where he was the first car out of the race and the last finisher in the race, and he's just had just a horrible, terrible season over there. And I just, as a whole, Trackhouse Racing really hasn't been what we've known them to become. And you even look at it. You even look at, and I'm sorry to get off kind of on a little tangent here, but I mean, you
You're
see
fine.
that you see where Daniel Suarez leaves that team and then goes over there, Spire Motorsports, and wins with that team. So Trackhouse as a whole, and if I'm Connor Jones, I'm kind of looking at this in the totality of it all, and saying, man, hey, I won 12 races over there with Junior Motorsports with the help of Rick Hendrick. Yeah, if I got an opportunity to get in one of them Rick Hendrick cars, I'm going to take it. I don't want to be the last driver, the last finisher every week. I don't want to be, like whatever he is, 30th in points or whatever it is, some kind of crazy number down the line. I don't think he's 30th, but the point is that he's so far down the chain that he has no opportunities whatsoever. But yeah, I would be looking at this and having the conversation about, man, I really want to get back in these Hendrick supported cars, and I can get back to winning, and I can be, there every single week trying to fight for these not only wins but a championship at the end of the year. And I know Josh Berry. I wish I don't know where he fits in.
Mhm.
He did. I feel like that Josh as a whole. That's not his fault because Penske outside of really what we saw with Joe Logano last weekend in the Windy World 450 at North Wilkesboro, and then Ryan Blaney kind of being the week before that in Atlanta. Blaney's really led the charge for Penske and that entire group, and the Wood brothers are an affiliate of it all. But I don't feel like this is Josh Berry's fault whatsoever. They just had Team Penske in the Cup Series as a whole, outside of a couple bright spots with, like I said, Logano and Blaney this year. It's just really they've just kind of faltered all around. So where he fits in to this, I don't know. Maybe he fits in back in the junior motorsports kind of deal with Hendrick support, but I don't know where he fits in the Cup Series because it's just he's one of the older drivers. He's already in his 30s at this point, and he's not that. Him and Bowman are pretty close in age, and
Mhm.
you know
Valid
they
point.
they're looking for drivers like Andre Zillers who are 20 years old, 21 years old, that they can write long-term contracts for, especially over at Hendrick. And not to say that Josh Berry couldn't last another 10 years and put some cars in victory lane for them. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just looking at where the reality of it all is, and I think that the push right now is Connor Zollich to get him in that car, and then develop Corey Day to take over another car over there at Hendrick, or maybe even a supported team that we've seen with Corey Day being able to do some of the things he's done with Junior Motorsports. So I don't know. It's something that Hendrick and Jeff Gordon and Jeff Andrews and everybody over there are going to have to sit down and look at who's the best opportunity for them. And Zillage will be a great opportunity, I think, for them because they kind of already know him with the junior pipeline and working
Mhm.
with him through the Hendrick support there. So you already have that. And Corey Day, I think they're just kind of you look back kind of earlier this year with Corey Day, and there was a sit-down conversation between Eric Hendrick and Jeff Gordon, and say, hey, you can't wreck race cars every week and expect to stay in these cars. And then he kind of slowed himself down. He kind of started to learn the process a little bit more, and then he's won. So I think that kind of talk to
Right.
him slowed him down and put him in the mental space to be able to win. But I think he's got a little bit more time because to develop, because he really is coming from the sprint car series. He doesn't have a whole lot of late model experience and things like that. So he's going to take a little bit more time, I feel, to develop, but I think there is a place there for him when he does.
Well, Christopher Bell was the fastest in the extended practice yesterday. Of course, Kyle Larson was right up there, Ty Gibbs, Eric Jones, Denny Hamlin. Kyle Larson was sixth fastest. Carson Hocevar was there, Tyler Reddick, all right there. Ryan Blaney. Those were all tight knit in the top speeds for yesterday. Any of those drivers you look to emerge out and get get a Brickyard win tomorrow.
I think it's all tied up with Toyota between Joe Gibbs and Legacy Motorsports and Eric Jones over the last couple of weeks, even last week at Wilkesboro. I feel like Eric is really developing with Legacy Motor Club, and we've seen them doing a lot better week in and week out. But Kyle Larson is kind of a little bit of a perennial favorite every time I think you come to Indy. He's won in 2024. He's raced the Indianapolis 500 twice, although that kind of effort didn't go very well. But the point being is that he is a previous winner there at Indianapolis, and this is kind of his style of racing where it mixes a little bit of stock car racing with a little bit of open wheel racing. And I feel like we can't discount him every time that we go there. And I know this is Team Penske's racetrack, and Roger Penske wants a Penske driver in victory lane, but I don't think we're going to see that this weekend. I could be surprised, but hey, I'm not necessarily looking forward to that. I see the domination of Toyota kind of taking precedence over all of this, and you're going to get the Kyle Larsons into the mix of it all, and that's kind of where we're going to be at later on tomorrow afternoon.
Well, we've been talking with Steve Wilson, editor in chief of Speedway Digest. We are glad to be here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, helping the Speedway Digest out, and of course here at the Balance as well. So look for all of our content on YouTube and all anywhere you can get your podcast formats. We're really trying to build up our YouTube group, so go ahead over there and like and subscribe on YouTube. All right, Steve. Last moments before we got to wrap it up and put a bow on it. Who wins today in the O'Reilly series, and who wins tomorrow at the Brickyard?
I am going to go with Chase Elliott today, winning the Brickyard, and tomorrow I'm going to go with Kyle Larson.
Kyle Larson. That'll be his second Brickyard win here in Indianapolis. A lot of people like him here, so we'll see what happens. We got you down here, Steve. We appreciate your help, and we look forward to a great race weekend here in Indianapolis.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Where can people find your work and masterpieces? And I forgot to ask you that. Go ahead, sir.
You can follow us on X at Speedway Digest, Facebook.com/Speedway Digest, and SpeedwayDigest.com.
All righty, buddy. We'll talk with you soon.
Thank you.